You got to have fun, man. If you're not having fun, then it's just a matter of time. Either the band will dissolve itself, or you'll end up searching for other members because they are not having fun, or or you quit the band because you're not having fun. So as long as you're having fun, that's the most important thing. Matt, how the hell are you, dude?
Hi, man. Living the dream, man. Made it through New Year and survived the holidays.
Yes, sir. That was a crazy, awesome interview we had with Byron, wasn't it?
Mind-blowing, dude. That was so wild.
Yeah, I had some feedback on it. Like, people were like, "Wow, that was really interesting," And the funny thing is I just got an email from Byron saying that he appreciated it and he liked it on the YouTube. And we have this thing where we have a form, like a survey form, that we have our guests fill out. Well, we ask them to, whether they do or not, it's their choice. But I asked him to fill it out and give a feedback on it. And he emailed me and said, "Hey, man, I tried to get into it, but it wouldn't let me." And I was like, maybe that's why we've never got a response from anyone else. So I had to fix it. And I'm like, here, try this link. This link will be better. But yeah, no, great dude. Very cool, interesting story. And
that's how we learned to do it.
Yeah. And right now you can preview some of his music on our Spotify guest list. It's called The Guest List, where we feature music from the artists that are on the show. And every time we have a guest on, I update it. I try to update it usually about a week or so in advance. But yeah, but today we are going to do just a you and me episode. We haven't done this since episode 2.
And since New Year's Eve.
Yeah, New Year's Eve we did one. That's right. Man, how easily I forget.
Hey, man, that's what I'm here for. Remember,
right.
I told you earlier, I'm here to help Zach remember shit.
That's right. And it gets worse every year, I'm telling you. So, all right. So this is 5 steps to starting a band. If you ever thought about starting a band or wonder what it's like, we do have a lot of experience. We've been in several bands in our career, and we thought we'd just shed some light. Now, by all means, this is not the fix to everything. There's always exceptions to the rule. There's always some people that have it easier than others. This is just kind of a general guideline.
Well, and like anything else, it's about finding your groove. It's about finding how other people's experience and advice can apply to you in your particular situation. And today, we kind of wanted to start from a ground-up approach. If you are thinking about starting a band, you want to start a band, there's some tips to get you pointed in the right direction.
Right. And, I think when we first started this podcast, I had in mind of kind of doing these episodes here and there where we give practical advice instead of just, not that I don't mind having interviews and telling stories and stuff, and stories are huge. And that's kind of been what you and I have had the most fun doing. But Definitely. At the same time, I still wanted to, I want to appeal to the audience of those that are musicians as well, not just fans of musicians. So, but anyway, we're going to go ahead and start with 5 tips. The first one is find the right bandmates. It's important to have a shared musical vision. So basically, you guys need to all have the same goal. So you want to find members that have the same sort of vision, or at least can put it in their head. Like usually if you're watching this, chances are that you're probably that guy that is the driving force in the band, or one of them, right? And you're going to find that a lot of the members that you find or recruit may not share that exact grandiose vision or see beyond maybe a year or two, where you're looking into the future. And that's okay, as long as you understand that that's kind of what it is. So, because finding a good musician, just even if that musician didn't do anything other than show up to rehearsal and maybe play gigs, and they weren't going to really do much more than that, then that's okay, as long as you understand that's what they're going to do and they understand what they're going to do. But it doesn't hurt if you find band members that can help delegate certain things. And we'll get more into that. But the first thing you start off with is you just want to make sure that, if you're going to find a guitarist, and that guitarist is, let's say is a country guitarist, plays country music, and you're in a heavy metal band, you need to make sure right up front that that guitarist is okay playing that kind of music, and that they're okay with writing music that way and playing music that way. You tend to want to gravitate towards people that are already into the same kind of bands and music genres and stuff. But sometimes that's not always the case. And sometimes musicians don't care, or sometimes musicians like the idea of doing something completely different than what they would listen to at home versus what they'll do in the band. And there's some things that can make your sound better by incorporating that. But keep in mind, you just want to try to keep the same goals in mind. Like where do you want to go from, like, what do you want to do with yourself as a band?
Right. I think that defining that right out of the right from the get-go is very important. Like what do we want to be? What are our goals? What's our vision? Do we want to be, do we want to be a cover band, play bar gigs, get paid to play, cover tunes? Or do we want to, is it going to be, a band that plays weddings, bar mitzvahs, public events? Is it going to be, or do you just want to hang out
in the garage and so you define, like what Matt was saying, define what you guys want to do as a band. Because, like I said, you might have one guy who's the driving force, wants to go all the way to the top, and then you got another guy or two other guys like, we just want to have fun. I don't even want to look at, all of the headache of touring or all that. Like, let's just have fun. Obviously you all want to have fun, but make sure you're all on the same page, because if you're not right from the get-go, then you're going to have some people that want to push it all the way to the end, or have, a vision of doing it full time, as a career, where you might have some members that are only into it because it's a hobby and they don't have another career that they're going to college for or whatever. It's more of a thing that they enjoy to do to kill time, which is fine. Just know that there might be a day where you might have to replace that member if you got to that point.
Well, and you want to make sure that, right from the get-go that, you're very clear about your goals and your ambitions and why you want to start this band, and make sure that the people that you're aligning yourself with have the availability to be able to, to rehearse twice a week, 3 times a week, if that's what you're going to do.
Right.
You want to make sure that the personalities in the band, that you've got a good chemistry. And it doesn't mean that you've got to be best buds hanging out all the time, but you can always tell if bandmates don't like each other when they're on stage playing. It's very hard to get a good live stage chemistry if you really just can't stand the other guys in your band. Not saying that you can't do it, and not saying that there aren't bands that do that, but
it becomes a job at that point. Yeah, I think
it really does.
You start to feel like it's not fun anymore. So you're right. Chemistry is important, and like Matt was saying, you don't have to be buddies, although it doesn't hurt, right? But as long as you have a working relationship and you're okay with, what your expectations of them are and what their expectations of you are, and you meet in the middle somewhere, and everybody kind of holds accountability for themselves that way, and so you never let any other member in your band down, then you have something there. You do have something that's working there. And it doesn't hurt to have friends, be in the band and just know what your commitment levels are, So tip number 1 is find the right bandmates. Tip number 2 is define your band sound and style. Identifying influences and creating a unique sound. If you're going to be a band that writes your own music, don't feel like you have to sound just like your favorite band. You can be influenced by that band, but you don't need to sound exactly like it. You don't want to be them. You want to be yourself. There's nothing wrong with taking an influence from one of your favorite bands, and maybe your bass player has a favorite band and you take influence from there, and whoever's doing the writing and stuff, there's nothing wrong with adding those influences. And we get often with Z Frequency where someone will listen to a song and be like, oh my gosh, that sounds so much like Gorillaz or whatever. I'm like, well, yeah, that's what inspired me when I wrote that song. So that makes sense, but it's definitely not a Gorillaz song. It's not like I'm not Damon Albarn trying to make this sound that sounds just like what he's doing. So
right. Well, and I think that bands start different ways. And a lot of times, coming up, you have friends that play, and so you start to jam together, and just by the fact that your friends, you all bring your own different influences to the table, but it's very likely that you have very common interests and very common influences as well. Just by playing together, jam, come up with riffs and jam and play off of each other And that is really, what's going to help you define your unique style and your unique sound.
Right. And the more you do it, the more, I was going to say, sorry, the more you do that, the more you play together, the more you play shows together, you're going to find you have a sound, and your audience is going to know the difference between what you sound like and what the next band, either before you or plays after you or whatever, you're going to develop a sound. And then once you kind of hone in on that and you find a fan base that can reciprocate what you're doing, like that, there's your sound. That's your brand. That's your signature. That's what and go with it,
Right. Absolutely.
There's nothing wrong with experimenting here and there, like kind of throwing in a little bit of curveballs and stuff. But I think bands generally do better when they kind of have that niche of who they are, and they know who they are and what they sound like, and they show it off as best they can. Those are the ones that will do pretty good.
I think once you kind of find that, once you identify your sound and you kind of figure out, what genre that, is kind of where is our wheelhouse, where are we in that pocket, man? Where are we in that groove the most? And where does the chemistry really come together? And you just kind of lean into that. And then, you throw in some outside stuff to keep it fresh, because you don't want every song to sound the same, but you want to keep something kind of grooving in a forward direction so that you can really kind of, stick to your brand as you develop, as you grow, and as you evolve as a group. You want to be able to really stick to your brand, because that's really what's going to keep the people coming back and listening to it.
Right. And it didn't even mention there, but brand is important. Like that would sit right in there, define your band sound and style. What is your brand? Not band, but brand. Like, do you guys all wear similar colors? Do you, and find it, like Matt was saying, whatever you find your genre, go to some of these places that have bands that play in that. And chances are you may already do that, but that's where your fans are going to be. They're going to be where, that kind of music, that genre or whatever are hanging out. That's where you're going to find your band and just start networking that. And the more that they see your brand as your band, the more they're going to instantly recognize as soon as they see something on Instagram or in the socials or a flyer, they're going to know right away, I know this band. So
definitely. So,
yep.
Tip number 2, define your band's sound and style.
And bonus, brand.
Brand.
Work on your brand.
Russell.
Yeah. Tip number 3, practice and rehearsal routines. Practice.
Now, this is where the rubber hits the road, man. This is where the work starts to play in, because
correct.
You're not going to be good overnight, and you're certainly not going to find your own groove and your unique. What sets you apart from other groups, even within a half dozen practices? It's going to take hard work,
and it's going to take some time.
I think it's important, like we were talking about in the beginning, to really define the expectations and make sure that everybody coming into it has an understanding of those expectations and is on board with them, because nothing is more frustrating than getting together, sacrificing your time and your energy to get together to rehearse, and you're missing somebody, especially when that same somebody is missing all the time.
Right. So under my bullet point, it just says setting up regular practice schedules, and that's important. That way you always know, and everybody knows, let's say you're going to practice every Wednesday at 7:00 at so-and-so's house. Everyone in the band should know on Wednesday at 7:00 at so-and-so's house, we're doing rehearsal for an hour or two or whatever. And you could do more than that. The point is that you have a schedule, and try to stick as close to that regular schedule as you can. It may take some getting, working out details like, well, what's your availability? And there may be a point where it's only like one day is available, and that becomes the day that you make that work. But it's important you try to stick to it and don't deviate as much as you can. Like, just kind of keep it solid that way. And if somebody can't make it, then they need to let you know. They need to text ahead or let somebody know, like, hey, I'm either sick or even further in advance, like, actually, I'm going to be out of town on vacation. So the rest of the band can make decisions whether they want to still do a practice or whatever. But like Matt said, If you show up for a rehearsal under the assumption that, hey, nobody said anything that they weren't going to make it, so you assume everybody's going to be there, and you all sit around for half of the practice time waiting for so-and-so to show up, then they never show up, or they text you late saying, oh, sorry, I forgot to tell you guys I'm not going to make it. Well, you just wasted everybody's time, and it's not cool. And be sure that you guys understand the importance of rehearsal. And another thing I would like to just add with rehearsals is, when it comes to practice versus rehearsal, like, practice is something you do at home. So rehearsal is something you do all together. So if you go to a rehearsal, the assumption is you already practiced your lines at home. You already picked up your guitar, you know the lines, you've been listening to your demo, or you're just practicing the best you know how, whatever means you have. Usually we would have like some sort of audio recording or a phone or something, just something to get, whether it's even a cover. If it's a cover of another band, then that's even easier, because then you just play that music and play along to it. But practice that shit at home. And then when you come to rehearsal, that's when everyone's putting it together, and that's how you're going to sound live. So don't waste other bandmates' time by showing up to rehearsal when you're still practicing that line. Now, it's one thing if you're like writing stuff, right? And you're like, wait a minute, what about this line? Or what about this line? That's a writing process. That's not practicing something you'd learn and say, okay, just like taking lessons, like if you go to a guitar teacher and he teaches you a lesson and you go home and he expects you to work on that lesson all week long for the next lesson, and you come back next week and he's like, okay, show me what you got. And you're right where you were when you left last week, then you're not really rehearsing, you're not practicing. So it's the same sort of application there.
You got to put in the work at home, and because you owe it to the other people that you are playing music with to be at the top of your game, to be the best you can be when you guys do get together, or girls.
Yeah.
Guys in the general sense.
It don't matter.
Together,
whoever
together,
you are, we're all the same.
And that way, for example, like back in the Hooray Hoo days, rehearsals was Tuesday and Thursday, and it was religious. Tuesday and Thursday were rehearsal nights. Everybody knew it. Everybody planned on it. That way, the other people in your life need to know that you are committed to this. And this is a commitment that you have made, not only to yourself, but to these other people who are also committing their time and then sacrificing their time and effort to do this. So it just out of respect, show up on time, make sure everybody is aware and on board with when rehearsals are, and make sure that everybody's there ready to go. If rehearsal starts at 7, rehearsal starts at 7. You don't show up at 7, unpack, shoot the shit for a half hour, get your stuff out, tune up, then by about 7:45, 8 o'clock, you're ready to play. That's wasting everybody's time.
Right. If you should be ready, if you say rehearsals at this time, you should be ready to start rehearsing at that time. I agree with Matt 100%. And then the other thing I would add, go ahead. I was just going to say the other thing to add is when you are in the middle of rehearsals too, try to be courteous of other people's time when they're trying to engage with conversation, or they're talking about something or whatever. Quick intermission, folks. We've curated a Spotify playlist called The Guest List, showcasing the incredible artists who grace our show with their talent and stories. Dive deeper into their music. Plus, discover exclusive tracks by Z Frequency. Click the link in the description or search for The Guest List on Spotify. Enjoy, and back to the show. If you're playing the drums, don't play the drums while the guy's trying to talk to like the singer's trying to talk to the guitarist or whatever. There's nothing more crazy and drives me crazy anyway, is when you're trying to have a conversation, or if you're trying to talk to the whole band as a whole and everybody's listening, but one guy, the drummer, I'm not picking on the drummer.
It's always the drummer, isn't it?
Yeah, but I'm just saying there's always that one guy, the guitarist, is just noodling around, like quit, stop. Because it just takes longer for that person to get out what he's got to say. Just let him get it out, and then you can go back to your business.
Right. And, in the beginning, rehearsals are going to kind of have to be free flowing. If we're learning a cover song, then you're going to have to spend, a lot of time in those rehearsals putting it together, no matter how much, and once you kind of get a feel for each other and get that chemistry going, that kind of thing, gets a lot easier. But,
right.
I found that one thing that helped us very much is having, some structure to rehearsal. So, let's say rehearsal is 2 hours. Well, we would always make sure that we earmark a certain amount of time during rehearsal to work on new material. However you come up with that. A lot of times somebody will come to rehearsal with a riff that they came up with during the last week. Hey, here's this, so the guitarist starts to kind of play this riff that he came up with. The bass player starts to feed off of that, comes up with a bass line for it. The drummer lays down a beat, and all of a sudden you're jamming. You've got this groove going. One great thing to have on hand at rehearsals is some kind of an audio recording device, so that if you find this groove, this riff or this idea of a song that you guys have come up with, you can reference it again later, because so many times you come up with this groove and it's thick and it's heavy and it's juicy and you're just loving it. And then you move on to other stuff through the rehearsal and you come back the next week and it's like, hell, what was that? What were we working? And it can be so hard to find that particular groove again. So if you make sure that you're just recording things as you're going, as you're coming
most
up.
of the time anymore, just use your phone. Set up your phone, push record. If you have a little tripod, like that's what Matt and I used to do with the Hooray Hoo, we would put our phone up there and record, and then whether we'd share it or not, we always had a documentation of it. But yeah, that way you can go back to it. And a suggestion that I would have, if you're going to structure, like Matt was saying, you structure your rehearsals, is like, if you got songs that you've already worked out and you're just tightening them up, I would start with those, because it acts as like a warm-up, and you get all of that technical, trying to like just make sure I stay sharp on these songs out of the way. And then you can work on the second half of your rehearsal on creative stuff and writing new stuff, because it's still going to be in your brain when you're done with rehearsal and you're driving home. It's still going to be kind of fresh in your thought. And one thing that I used to do with Hooray Hoo, back when we're in our prime, I should say, so this is like years and years, 20 years ago, whatever. So when we would have a song that we knew it start to finish, we performed it a few times, or when we were going through our set list or whatever, we would rehearse the song, and it had to be error-free, just about damn near error-free. And if it wasn't, somebody made a mistake or somebody like missed that one line, we would do the whole song over again.
Right.
And by doing that, and it was sometimes it's a pain in the ass, right? But I'm telling you what, you sound tight. You will get tight if you make that kind of follow that step, especially if it's a new song, right? So like, because you'll get to a point where you have, let's say, your first 5 songs you ever wrote, you played it in every show you've ever done, you continue to play it in every show you've ever done. Those 5 songs are going to be tight, even if you only practice them once in a while.
But you should still play them.
Right, you still play them, and they're going to sound really tight because you've done it, because of the repetition. But yeah, I would say that Matt gave some excellent advice, especially with recording, whether it be, if you have a tape recorder, you can do that too, or like, I don't know, your computer. Usually we just do the phone, because the phone at least has a document and it has a video of it, so you can kind of see, oh yeah, I remember. And sometimes you're in the pocket and you're feeling great and you record it, and then you listen to it later and you're like, yeah, that wasn't nearly as cool as it sounded that night. Right. But then there are times where you're like, wow, we were on it, and,
right.
And everyone gets pumped for the next practice because they remember that, especially if you can share that audio recording or whatever with your bandmates. Then that gets
finally,
everybody.
you should always set some time aside during your rehearsal time, and a lot of times it works out best to do it at the end. Once you're done playing, you've run your set, you play the songs, you dedicated some time to writing some new stuff. Everybody's getting ready to pack up. Talk about what's coming down the pipe. Have a calendar there that everybody can share, that you can put on the wall, or that you can share, Google Calendar or something like that. Or an Outlook calendar, so that everybody knows when the gigs are coming, what are the, what's the time expectation, how long is the set. Everybody knows what's coming down the pipe, so that nobody's surprised. It also gives everybody a chance to say, oh, by the way, I've got this coming up, I've got that coming up. But it also gives you a chance to just kind of decompress, talk about what worked, what didn't, what do you guys want to do next time, how are you feeling about this, how are you feeling about that. And keep the lines of communication open. If something's bugging you, you just got to say it. You got to say it. Don't let things fester. It's just like a relationship. Because if you've got something that's really bugging you about what one of your bandmates is doing or isn't doing, and you just try to keep it to yourself and whatever, it's his thing, whatever, that is going to fester, and it's going to become a lot bigger deal than it needs to be. So communicate.
Communicate is huge, and you can almost start from the very beginning on when you get your first bandmates together and say, look, we've got to set up some ground, like define what role people are going to have, like who's going to do the booking, who's going to handle the money that's earned, who's going to make sure that we're all on the same page, and like Matt was saying with communication and taking that last little bit to talk about a show coming up, or even having a whiteboard that you can, map out your songs and your set list and have everybody kind of take a snapshot of that. And that's the way they know what their set list is, or somebody's going to print them out. We used an app that Matt introduced to Who called Band, which is ironic, but it's an app that people can communicate, and you can share photos, you can share audio files.
It's got a calendar. It's got a calendar. It's a great app. It's a fantastic. Oh yeah, and absolutely. So if you are in a band and you're looking for a good central place for communication, for file sharing, for photo sharing, for calendars, for chat, download the Band app. It's free. It's fantastic.
And I'll see if I can find an image of it and throw it up here on so people can kind of guess where that's at.
And they are not sponsoring us to say that. This is from experience.
No, we're not sponsored by it, but we actually use it.
I actually found out about it through my daughter's dance school. My daughter's dance school uses it for her dance team, and it's wonderful. And I started using it.
And here's the other thing too. Like if you have a group text, like having a group text of your bandmates is not a bad idea either. But just realize that when you're going to put important information, if you're going to put it on the group text, make sure you also put it on the Band app in some way, because if you say, hey, just a reminder that when you come to the show on Friday, you need to go to the back door in the south side, right? And if everyone doesn't ever get that message or whatever, next thing you know, you got the guitarists and bassists start going back and forth about how their week was last week, while they were up in the mountains shredding it or whatever. All of a sudden, that important information is buried down in that group thread, and you end up missing it. And some guy's like, I don't know, what are you talking about? They'll text you like, hey, I can't get in. Well, did you go to the backside? I'm like, oh, what? You know what I mean? So be sure that, because the banter will fly, I promise you, when you have a group text. Which is fine, but just make sure you have the important information somewhere else, like especially with days off, or like somebody saying, hey, I won't be able to make it to, I'm going on vacation on this week and this week. Make sure you have a calendar that puts up there so everyone can look at it. So there's no second guessing whether you're supposed to be there or not. And don't just say in the group text like, hey, I won't be here, next month for this week or this week, because if it doesn't get written down, then nobody's going to remember it.
Right. Well, so before we move on to the next to the next tip, Zach, you touched on something that I think is very, very important to establish right from the get-go, and that is, how are we going to handle the money? Because you're not going to get rich doing this, but as we get into booking gigs and selling merchandise and things like that, there will be money coming in, and it's very, very important to all agree right from the get-go on how that money will be used, how it will be spent. Are we going to just split everything up four even ways at the end of every gig, and then when we have to pay for recording time or merchandise, we all pony up together? Or
that's one way.
Another way is all of the proceeds from the band go back into the band. We can divvy out if people, you can decide on gas money or this or that, but it costs money to be in a band. It costs, and depending on the instrument, it costs money to do it. Guitarists need strings, drummers need sticks and heads and things like that. It's very, very important to, some drummers get head.
Some drummers do. I'm sorry, Matt. I had to go there. But he's right. He's absolutely right. And usually there's only a couple ways. One of them, like he said, was either if everybody can afford it, then you split everything at the end of the night. Let's say you do a gig, or like you sell. Even if you do a gig and it pays, let's say there's 4-piece band, pays $400, that's easy, $100 for each of you. Let's say you sell 10 shirts at $40. Well, there's an extra, you know what I mean? It's easy to split, and that's the way you would do it.
The important thing is figure out how you want to do it, but you all need to be on the same page regardless of what your plan is.
Before you make any money.
Before the money starts coming in.
Before anything starts coming in, yes. You make sure you are dialed in. That is the best.
Because remember, if you want to have T-shirts to sell at your shows, that requires an investment. That requires money to do it.
And you may not have the money to do it right away. So the other option, like Matt was saying, was all the money that you guys earn from gigs or whatever just goes into an account, right? It's an account that maybe it's in an envelope or in a mason jar that sits under your, grandma's mattress, whatever the case. But use that money to pay for gas, pay for merchandise, pay for recording, and so, and that way, the only expense on your end is your time and whatever, I guess, it takes for your personal vehicle to go to the shows and rehearsals. But other than that, you're not asked to pony up money you may not have. You may be living paycheck to paycheck. You may not be able to just cough up $200. And because even just to do a small run of t-shirts, you're looking at almost $1,000 just to do 50 shirts. So and that's not chump change, right? So
right.
But
be on the same page.
Whatever the case, figure it out and make sure you all agree that that's how it's going to work, and agree on who's going to handle it, right? And if for whatever reason, you're feeling like being slighted in one way, or they're mishandling the funds in a certain way, or then you all should be able to have a way right in the beginning as well as is understanding, like, hey, at any time we could call a band meeting and we can have a sit down or come to Jesus and hash out our, whatever we're concerned about, whether it be good, negative, positive, whatever. You should all be able to at least be open to hearing what somebody might have to say if they disagree with the way something's being run or they want to change something, and then you can have that discussion. But yeah, communication is, you're not going to make it. You're going to be that band that doesn't make it in the first year if you cannot communicate. Absolutely. Yep.
Well, let's move on to our next tip.
What does it say? Get gigs and build a fan base.
This is the fun part.
Networking with venues and promoters. So I would almost say, before you get into the promoters side of stuff, I would say network with other bands. And the way to do this, really,
go to their shows.
Just go to their shows. Find out where they're playing. Let's say they're playing at this bar, and you're a rock band, and they're playing at this bar that apparently likes to have rock bands play all the time. And you go there and hang out, introduce yourself, let them know that you're also in a band. Chances are, just by doing that, saying, hey, love your set, would love to work with you guys, we're just starting out, maybe we'd be a good cover band, or an opening band for you guys. Give them your number, or if you have a link to like your SoundCloud or some way that they can listen to your music, make sure you share that information. Put it on a business card. It don't matter. Most bands that I run into that I've done this are at least willing to hear you out. Like, hey, yeah, cool. They're usually always looking for bands, and sometimes you'd be surprised what kind of headlining bands will struggle to find an opening act. So there's always room to put yourself somewhere. And if you're a multi-genre, or you feel like, yeah, I'm a rock band, but we also kind of do some pop stuff, and we kind of do maybe a little reggae stuff, well, now you've opened up your doors to all kinds of other bands. So, but that is the easiest, that's the single easiest way. And it works for venues too. Like, so let's say you go see this band play, like you've seen them, or you heard about them, or your friend's like, hey, have you heard this band? They would probably be a good band to play with. Go check it out. Take your buddy that knows them. Like, hey, let's go check them out. And go to their show. And if you get there early enough, chances are you might even be able to get in touch with the venue, whether it be the manager or the owner, or a waitress, or whoever's there is going to know who to talk to about certain stuff, and you can talk to them.
Find out what they want to see from a band. Find out what they want what
they got to do to get a gig.
Right. Do you want to see a press kit? Is it an electronic press kit? Do you like physical media? Do you prefer to have links to videos on YouTube? What do you, or whatever they'd like to do, however they like to investigate your band before you end up getting a gig there.
Right. And that kind of ties into tip 5, because tip 5 really will help you propel tip 4. The other thing with getting gigs and building fan base is use social media and other platforms to promote your band. That's actually a no-brainer,
Considering launching a podcast? Riverside is the go-to platform that supports you from the planning stage to recording, offers AI editing tools, and assists with uploading your episodes to Spotify and more. Whether you're uploading past recordings, recording directly on Riverside, or exporting your files for editing in your preferred video software, Riverside has got you covered. Additionally, their Magic Clips feature enables you to create shareable snippets of your episodes for social media, generate show notes, and more. Ready to begin? Use our affiliate link in the description below to start for free.
This is the day and age of social media. And one of the things that you're going to want to think about, obviously, and we really didn't touch in the initial stages of this, of naming your band and all of, because there's so much we've really tried to keep this as simple as possible, because there is so much that goes into it. But come up with a good name, come up with a unique name, come up with something that's going to be memorable, that's going to stick in people's heads. But come up with a logo.
And it comes up with, like, it speaks to who you are, and like Matt said, a logo. And when you find that name, sorry to interrupt, Matt, but when you find the name, search it up on all of the platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that. See if it's already taken, first of all.
We didn't even have the internet, and we found out, because way back in the day, one of the band names that Zach was playing around with was Hoi Polloi. Right. Love it, man. It means working class. It's like, that is us, man. Well, suddenly we found out there's a band from Boise called House of Hoi Polloi.
Right. So we could have probably used that name, but it was close
Boise,
enough.
Salt Lake, whatever, but we decided not to. But I became a big fan of House of Hoi Polloi. Great band,
so
really cool stuff.
I
haven't even thought about them in years. I don't even know if you can, but it's the internet. I'm sure there's an archive somewhere that has something,
but
I will find it now.
Yeah, and if you do find a name, and it's unique, right? Sometimes if you find and when you name, like, open up accounts, whether you start using them or not, open up a Facebook account, open up a Instagram account, TikTok if they're still around, or YouTube. Register, go to GoDaddy and register a domain name under that, but try to keep your name universal across all of those things. So when somebody goes to YouTube and it says at blank or at your band, they can go to Instagram and put at your band, and your band's going to show up. And have an image or a good photo or logo, like Matt was saying, design a logo, and try to keep that pretty much across all of those platforms. And even if you don't start posting stuff right away, that's okay. Just have the name reserved. Like, sit on the name until you're ready to go, kind of build up some sort of some rehearsals, and you kind of have a name for yourself. You're ready to show the world that you're an actual band. But it's real important, because the last thing you want to do is be calling yourself, some band name for the last 6 months, and then you say, okay, now we're ready to go in, and you get on there, and let's say you go to Instagram and you find out that band name's been taken, and there's just really no way around it, to the point where you have to rename your band. And it happens, believe me, it does. So very first stage is, and I'm assuming this is going to be to the guy that starts this whole thing. Like, this is the guy that's watching the video going, yeah, this is what I want to do. That's the guy who's going to probably think of the name. Right. And everyone else is just joining that band. So
and then as you go, make sure that you are present in your social media, that you are posting things, that you're posting band photos, rehearsal clips, songs. Make sure that you're putting out content to keep it in your fan base's presence, so that your fan base can grow.
Right. And we probably will do a whole nother episode on social media and marketing. Once we get more than 10 subscriptions on YouTube, we can start talking about that.
What's
kind of interesting with our situation, though, Matt, is that, we have a fan base, not a huge one. We're not a huge band, but we do have some fans with Z Frequency. We have some fans with Hooray Who. Prior to the internet, we had quite a bit of fan base with Hooray Who. And we also have fan base of 10, 18. I think we're at 18 right now. We have a fan base of so we know what it's like to be from the very beginning, and we know what it's like to have a little bit. With superstardom, I'm not there. I never was. I don't know that I ever will go there. But we know what it's like to have those sort of things. But don't worry about that. To me, don't worry about all that right now.
That just don't forget to have fun. That is the big bottom line. Because honestly, it's not worth doing if you're not enjoying yourself. You're not going to be enjoying yourself 100% of the time. Sometimes when you are sticking to your guns and making yourself practice, and your fingers are sore, and your lips just are so swollen that you can't play your trumpet anymore, or your voice is
he's a trumpet player,
shot.
so if you want to know why his lips are swollen.
I just said that.
I know. I was just like, you should probably.
Hey man, there's
funny.
tuba players in this world too, right? Saxophone
There
players,
is, yeah,
flute players, Never
yeah.
mind.
So Matt is a trumpet player, and so, but he's right. He's right. And the one thing you have to keep in mind too is that it doesn't take a lot of money. It doesn't. I mean, there is money to be spent. There is money, but to get started, it really takes almost nothing at all. Like you just need the time and you need the passion. Like if you have passion, whenever like with Hooray Who and we were going through members at any time, I would audition certain members. The one thing I would look for wasn't skill. I mean, obviously you've got to have some skill, right? But the one thing I always looked for was passion.
Right. It wasn't even
that
gear.
was a driving factor for me, right? Because if they didn't have the passion, if they had the passion, they would learn the music, right? They would learn the skills it take. Like it wouldn't take them long to get to a point where like, okay, they can compete with that or they're at our level. But if they don't have the passion for it, then even if they had the skills, to me, it tells me, well, they don't have the passion. So how long is this going to last? You know, is this only going to last until they're bored with this and then they're just going to move on, you know? So passion is important.
Have fun with it, man.
And
enjoy yourself.
And communicate. Those are like the three big ones. And if you do all those things and you respect each other's time and you prop each other up and, you know, you don't tear each other down, even if it's a bad idea, try it out. You never know. It might change into something that's a good thing. You just never know. So always look at opportunities, you know. And the last tip that we'll share is record your music and create a demo. And this is actually really important that I would say should have been in tip or instead of tip 5. But tip 4 is get gigs and build a fan base. But one way you can really do that easily is if you take some time, like rehearse, whether it's even a cover or not. If it's a cover, releasing it is kind of a challenge. You can't really just release somebody else's music that's copyrighted and try to like stream it on, you know, you can't really do that. But if you have your own music, then record it. And you can do it as simple as being on your phone. Like you can actually record an entire band on your phone with maybe a little interface device. It is possible. So GarageBand, and it's free. GarageBand is free. It's a DAW. It can record vocals. You just need a mic, an audio interface, maybe a computer. There's lots of free stuff. Cakewalk was free. I think Luna was another one by UA Audio. I believe it's free. So there's a lot of options there to get a good, decent recording. And if you're like, you know what, I'm old fashioned, I don't want to deal with that. You almost guarantee you know somebody who does do it, right? And would be able to record you.
Or you know what? Go find an old 4-track and record yourself.
Yeah, I don't know. 4-track's kind of a museum thing now, you know? Like I don't think anyone knows what a 4-track is anymore.
Well, look it up.
I'll show you one day. Like, well, I've always been tempted because that's what Matt and I used to do starting out.
Zach's
we used to
studio.
do everything on a 4-track, and I had a 4-track machine, and we wore the shit out of that thing. And
we'd record 4 tracks, and then we'd combine them and dump them down onto 1 track, and then we'd have 3 more tracks to play with, and then we'd record on those 3 tracks, and we'd dump those onto 1, and then we'd have 2 more, so that it would be expand
and they
right
called
out.
it a bounce down or mix down, and the thing is like once you bounced it down, you had better make sure it was right, because that was permanent. Because as soon as you recorded over that, then you know. So
Zach,
anyway,
as the kind of the resident, you know, producer engineer of the two of us, what are some things that aspiring artists would want to look out for to make sure that they're producing the best quality demo that they can?
Capture. So what I mean by capture is get it right when you record it. Make sure the levels are right. Don't peak. A million YouTube videos on tutorials on how to do it the right way. Make sure you capture your sound first, right, as best as possible right out of the gate. That is going to make the rest of the track sound and so much easier to mix. So my biggest advice is make sure you get it right at the source, is what they call it. So make sure you have a good recording. Make sure you have a good vocal take. Make sure you have a good guitar take right out of the gate. The better you can sound in the recording right out of the gate, the less mixing and engineering and magical hoopla you've got to go through to make it sound polished. And there are some times where a capture is so good, you would think it was mixed, and it wasn't. So, that would be the biggest advice.
In this day and age now, I mean, there is nothing you cannot learn on YouTube.
Right. Well, and
There's
then the other thing
literally
is,
nothing you can't learn.
and here's the thing, like when Matt and I first started doing the music thing, like you didn't really have a studio. We had a 4-track, but that was demo quality. I mean, you're talking about a cassette tape. Like that was the best it was ever going to sound. It was never going to sound great. So if you wanted to sound good, you had to fork over money because you didn't have a studio. You rented one, or you hired an engineer to record your music. And that's what Who did in the beginning. And we were blessed to meet and interact and have a relationship with a guy named Bruce Kirby, who still operates out of Boho Digitalia. Amazing dude. And that experience in itself was just it's like one of those things I always hold to my heart forever. You know, just the experience of being in a studio. It made you feel like a rock star, you know?
Well, and that's the thing,
it was
is
the
that
best
it was,
you ever would sound.
And it's also his commitment to getting the capture right. I remember distinctly when we were recording Wider Than Stockton Gimp Funker, several times Zach just getting frustrated as hell because Bruce would say, "Nope, do it again."
Yes.
Zach would get done with
the
the take, and he'd be like,
"Oh,
okay."
I think it was Girl Like You.
Nope, do it again.
Yeah, I'd had one line over and over and over again for like, I don't know how many takes.
Yeah, man.
And then I said something like, funny story about that is, I'm like, what do I got to do? I got to drop my pants or something? And he's like, try
too.
it.
Yeah.
So I dropped my pants.
And you got it, man.
And that was the take that actually took. And somebody took a picture while it was funny.
Yeah.
That actually was the one that worked.
Well, but I think that it was just like you were in this moment and you were so in your head about the takes and everything that just that broke the tension. Dropping your drawers broke the tension. Everybody had a laugh. You went into it more relaxed and you just nailed it.
Right. Yep. But yeah, so anyone starting out, I would say use your phone, use an iPad, use your computer. If you don't have a Mac and you have a PC, you can download Cakewalk for free. You would need an interface or a USB, a microphone with a USB, although I don't recommend that. We could do a whole little video on how to set up your own first studio you could probably get something pretty decent under $200, maybe $100 even. You could probably get something close. Monitors are helpful, which are like speakers, powered speakers, but you don't have to have them. You can actually mix with headphones, and there are plenty of YouTube tutorials of people that do mix with headphones. But yeah, if you don't know any of that stuff and you're not already into it, because chances are, like the way I look at it is like, you're either going to be that guy who's already into it, or you know somebody who's way into it, been doing it or whatever, or you know somebody who does do it. And so you could take your music there, and that's what I would suggest.
Like anything else, just learn from people that know more than you.
Right. And here's the thing. You don't have to really do it to showcase your stuff. So you could just set up your iPhone and on a tripod and record your rehearsal. Record a performance of you singing one of your songs or performing one of your songs at a rehearsal, and just dance around as if you were on stage. And you could take that video clip and share it with the venue owners. You could share it with your friends. You could share it with potential fans, or you could put it on a YouTube channel. And at least you have music there. And it may not sound the greatest, but I would almost dare say anything is better than nothing. So if they don't know you exist, how are they going to like your stuff? So that would be my biggest tip for producing high quality. Now, if you want to go high quality, it's a forever.
You need to call Zach and let Zach do it for you.
Yeah, I don't even think I could do it. You know, and actually, our next guest is going to be Trevor Noakes, who is a mixing and mastering engineer, and that's probably a better question to ask him. And people are like, well, what's the difference between mixing and mastering? It's like mixing is like forming the clay into a statue or some piece of art and finding the perfect fit, and like everything just looks good, where mastering is polish, right? It's the final touch that tickles the ear.
Polish the details.
Right. And they are two very different things. You take the approach two different ways. Anymore, nowadays, it's kind of easy because AI tools have made it real easy to kind of do a plug and play mastering sort of blanket rendering of your tracks. And to be honest with you, it does a pretty good job. Does it do the best job? No. But
bottom line is get some content, get something for people to listen to.
Right. And if you don't have music and you don't know how to write songs yet or whatever, just start with a cover. There's nothing wrong with starting with a cover. And in fact, most of my favorite bands, I would say almost all of them, started off doing a cover. You know, Like that's how they started. And actually they produced a song and released it with their other stuff as a cover in that album, So there's nothing wrong with covers. And to be honest with you, when you're first playing gigs, covers are kind of the way to go. Like, you would almost want to have more covers than you want original. There's nothing wrong with having an original song or two, but like your first few gigs, I would do mostly covers, and those are the easiest thing to learn because it's already a song that somebody else has written. And as long as it like fits within what you guys are doing and it sounds good, people are going to enjoy it. So anything else you want to share, Matt?
No, man, I think that, I think every one of these, it was really hard to narrow it down to 5 tips.
It was
for starting a band. And
I don't even know if those are the most crucial. They are all crucial.
They're all
but
5
it's
crucial tips.
Right.
There is so much more that goes into it, and we could have gone into excruciating detail on a lot of stuff. But hopefully this is kind of a good 30,000 foot, overview of some things to keep in mind if you want to start a band. And
I would say the biggest takeaways from all this, first of all, find the right bandmates, define your band sound and style, practice, rehearse, get gigs, and build a fan base. That includes your social media presence, and record your music and create demos and make shareable demos, and those right there is going to get you a good start. But commitment, communication, and like Matt said from the start of this whole episode, is you got to have fun, man. If you're not having fun, then it's just a matter of time. Either the band will dissolve itself, or you'll end up searching for other members because they are not having fun, or you quit the band because you're not having fun. So as long as you're having fun, that's the most important thing. And that's like, I was talking with Matt a little while ago. Like, I think it's ironic. I was thinking about it. All the fun stuff I like to do, the stuff that makes fun, like my life fun, is stuff that does not earn any money. Like, I have no way of making money off the stuff I enjoy to do. So then you ask yourself, why do you do it? Because I'll spend a small fortune on all this stuff, man. Look at this studio. It's really cool. It all costs money. Why do I do it? Because it's fun, man. That's
fun.
why.
We love it.
It's a blast. So
excellent.
That's why we do it. So, all right, man.
All right.
If there's anything else, I think we'll wrap this up. I was meant to be a short episode, but it's still pretty much a full-length episode.
All right. Well, that's what we do.
If there's anything you guys like to add to this, let us know. Like, we would love to elaborate on any one of these topics. We could probably do an episode.
And we are
on
by
each
no
one
means
of those
experts on any of this shit.
Exactly. Like,
we're making this up as we go.
This disclaimer is that these aren't all the right answers. There really is, and everybody's different. Maybe some people come in with a different sort of set of rules. But I think the key that would probably be pretty universal across all scenarios would be that, 1, you're having fun doing it, and 2, you have a commitment to do it and a passion to do it, and you respect everyone. Like, if you respect everyone, like, and including your fans, the people around you, respect your bandmates and their family, respect their family and what they're going through, the commitment that member all of a sudden has to make, that creates an impact on their family. So you've got to be respectful of that. And I think as long as you just be a human being, man, be a human being, don't be a dick. I think you guys would do great. So
exactly.
All right. Okay. Well,
thanks, man.
I just wanted to let you know, we're always on YouTube. You can subscribe to us there. We'd love it. We're slowly building our fan base. And if you are an artist or in the music industry and you'd love to be a guest on our show, please leave a message there, or you can find us on Facebook and Instagram and just DM us. And we'd love to hear your story.
If you're watching this on YouTube, click that like and hit subscribe.
There you go. All right, man. Peace, brother.
Let's just go. Hey, Matt, you changed clothes. Yeah, so did you. Ooh, wardrobe change.
So we forgot to add in the outro, but we want to thank you for tuning in, and we hope you enjoyed the episode on 5 tips to starting a band. Remember, it's all about finding your sound, building your team, practicing hard, booking gigs, and promoting your music, right? Easy.
Dig it, Z. Don't forget to join us on the next episode. We'll be chatting with the incredible Corey Peterson, also known as CP. Corey's the frontman and guitarist for The Bind and Freak Breed, and has been part of former bands like Against the Fire, T10, and the amazing Sidewalk Religion. You don't want to miss it.
Make sure to subscribe to our podcast on YouTube and leave a comment below. We'd love to hear your thoughts and any questions you have. See you next time on the ZHZ Podcast.